Hey y'all, you are now tuning in to the Praying Single Mom podcast, where we love the Lord, we love to pray, and we even love a good slay child, okay? But we also love to get real, raw, uncut, and candid. No topic is off limits here, as we are not after religion, but we're after relationship with Christ. We are not after perfection, but we're after connection. So we'll touch on all topics, from why you need to get out of that relationship that is no longer serving you, to rejection, abandonment, grief, neglect, you name it. From how to be a better parent to how to better that spending habit, honey, because we know how we can get, okay? We let God use us like never before. I hope you know that you're safe here. You can cry here. You can laugh here. Whatever floats your boat and keeps you afloat, okay? I'm your host, Lakeisha Cody. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Praying Single Mom podcast. I am so excited on tonight. I do have a guest with me on tonight, and I do have Miss Ranika Chaney with us on tonight. And so I'm just going to go over a little bit of who she is, and then we're going to get started. Tonight we are talking about the power of God when you are weak. Such a powerful topic. And so I am so excited. And so Ranika, she is a speaker, a facilitator, a thought leader in the areas of navigating difficult relationships, mindset shifting, which I love, healing from domestic abuse, and personal growth. I'm pretty sure we can all relate to that. She interviewed on the Anthony O'Neill podcast, where you can see her full story from floor to 150K. I actually watched that. It was so good. I was super inspired. I actually reached out to Bethel because of that. Yeah, I definitely did. So I was excited. I was like, yes. But from floor to 150K, single mom of 5, shocking story after escaping her marriage. That is on YouTube on Anthony O'Neill's channel. It's really good. You guys should go catch it. The short of her story is she's a single mother of 5 children who left an abusive marriage and went from leaving her home with her 5 children to breaking into the tech world, which changed the trajectory of their lives. She now owns her own speaking and coaching business, where she encourages people through their difficult circumstances. You can see her website and more about her on www.renikaspeaks.com. And of course, we will have all of that information for you guys. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for joining us on today, Ranika.
Thank you. That intro. Wow. Thank you for that. Thanks for having
Um,
me, Keisha.
yes, so excited to have you. And so even after all of that I just went over, I love to ask my guests, if you were in the elevator with someone and they just walked up to you and said, "Who is Ranika?" What would you say?
Yeah, Ranika is a woman after God's own heart who has a love for legacy. I'm investing in the next generation and my 5 children with the hope of just eternal goodness. So
Oh, I
eternal
love that.
on the scope.
I love that. I love that. We don't talk enough about legacy, and it's so
Right.
important. Growing up, I will say I didn't hear much about it. I didn't hear, it being a big issue or a discussion at all. And
Mhm.
so I love to hear that. And so,
Yeah.
a single mom of 5, can you let us in on your life as a Christian mom?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, single mom of 5, I have 3 amazing boys, 2 girls. My youngest is about to be 7, and then my oldest is 14. So, yeah, just I have a range of children, right? So it's some people are all in the toddler stage, some people are all in the teen. I have the spectrum, right? So one day we're talking about, just adding numbers. And the next day we're talking about something, with the teenager that's going on, like preparing this person for life as they leave the home. So yeah, that's our life a little bit.
How
Mhm.
do you balance it all though? I mean, I'm a single mom of 2, but how do you balance it? Do you have like a village? Do you have nannies? Do you
Yeah.
have babysitters? Like, how do you balance it?
Yeah, people ask that a lot, and I have amazing community around me, like to the point that I'm in awe of the community that is around me. So we rear our children together, right? So my teenager actually knows she has my friend's number that she can call if she's having a hard time or struggling or whatever. And hey, I need help with pickup this day. Okay, then you get this kid. Like we really are. I have amazing people around me, and I know that's not everybody's story. And so that is
Yeah.
how. And then there are days where it is like, Lord, I don't even know. You can see a child and you're like, I know they have a need, and I'm so exhausted. And so I just extend my hand across the room and I'm like, Lord, touch that child. You know what they need. Give them what they need because my strength right now, I need you. So yeah, you know,
Absolutely. I love that. I love
yeah.
that. And sometimes, and first of all, it's such a blessing to have a village.
Yes.
Blessing to have a village. It, like you said, many people do not have that. And I will say that helps. It
Yes.
helps a lot. And so I'm excited for you
Yeah,
guys.
and I will say that my village is not necessarily my blood family. I'm originally from New Orleans and I live in Charlotte. And so we've been here for so long. We have friends that are just like family. So, you know, your village can look different, doesn't necessarily have to be blood. Everybody doesn't have access to that. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
thank you for dropping that in there because I know
Yep.
people who are listening in, they're probably like, I don't even talk to my family like that, or
Yep.
my family will not step in and help me. How were you able to trust those friends who were not family with you?
Yeah.
That's
That's
another
a good
big
question.
one.
You know, when I talk to my friends and I say, y'all, you know, we'll reminisce on something, you know, when I left the marriage, and I'll say, y'all, I don't understand how I have such a good community, like how y'all were there for me. And you know what all of them say? They say, Ranika, it's not like we were just good friends to you. You have always been a good friend to us too. So it's like being a good friend and good to other people. I guess that just can't comes into your life, you know. So it's not just this one-sided relationship. I'm a single mom of five, and then all these people came to help me, which is true. But it's also like I believe that I'm a great friend as well, you know what I mean, and trusting other people. So and they trust me. So it's a mutual relationship, right? And I see how they are with their children, how I am with my children. And most of my community really are friends from church too. So
I love that. I love that. And what I'm hearing is you sowed those seeds, whether you knew it or not. The seeds that you sow are the seeds that you will reap. You know, what you put out is what you would get back. And so I love that. I
yeah.
really do. And so about the topic on tonight, the power of God when you are weak. Can you think back to a moment where you felt like you were at your lowest, where you were at your weakest moment? And can you tell us about that time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was what you said in my intro, right? Like what we talked about the Anthony O'Neill show. If anybody goes to watch that podcast as well, it's when I left my marriage pregnant with my fifth child, and we moved in with a friend, and I was literally sleeping on her floor, pregnant, and my other four children in an adjacent room. And now I will tell you, if you listen to that podcast, it was the best night of sleep that I had in years because I felt safe. And I think my body felt safe for the first time in a while. And but it was also after that, it was how do you get up and move forward? You literally just left a life that you had, even though it was a life that like it needed to be better, right? But you left that and you look back and that's in shambles. And now what is before you? Like, what do you do? And whenever you're in an abusive relationship, people will tell you you spend most of your time trying to appease the other person, trying to make sure the other person is comfortable because it keeps you safe. So you don't want them to be upset. You want to do all the things that's right. And so you lose kind of yourself. You lose what you like, what you need to do, your dreams and all your aspirations. And so I would say that definitely was one of the lowest points literally in my life, sleeping on someone's floor with my children, no longer being in my home. I was a stay-at-home mom as well, so no income and all of that. So I would say that definitely was like, where do I go from here? So
Yeah, I can only imagine in that moment, you probably didn't see yourself where you are today.
mhm.
And so, in that low moment, in that weak moment, first of all, you have to be super vulnerable to sleep in someone else's home. I know what that feels like firsthand. Um, you
Mhm.
you really have to humble yourself and be like, okay. But like you said, I think one of the PowerPoints that I see that you slept peacefully. It's
Yeah,
something about even in that moment the peace of God, which surpasses
yeah,
all understanding,
yeah,
showed up in that moment.
yeah,
And so, when did you start to identify the power of God in that weak moment?
yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't like I'm on someone's floor and it's like, God, I feel your peace. And I know it's going to be all right, even though I
Yeah.
can't see it. It took other people speaking into me, right? So I was sleeping on someone's floor, but guess what? That friend and other friends told me, you make good decisions. And I'm like, wait, I'm sleeping on someone's floor. Oh, Ranika, you're an amazing mom. And it's like, how am I an amazing mom when I'm like, they spoke things to me and to my life. It didn't matter what it looked like. They spoke to me the truth of what it was and who I actually was, whether I could see it or not. That wasn't the point. The point was, this is who you are. Your circumstance doesn't define who you are. Because you're on my floor, that doesn't mean you're any less today than you were yesterday, or you will be tomorrow. So it really took people speaking to me who I actually was that helped me regain my strength, like regain who I was in the Lord. And then I could read his word and he told me who I am. And so that's why I say, like, I talk about community. I know that that is not everybody's story. I know people leave and they literally don't have anywhere to go, don't know what to do. But we're not meant to live this life alone. Like, that's just not how it is. I'm not meant to say, well, now I'm a single mom of five and I got to just push through this myself. Whether you're a single mom, you're married, like, we are meant for community and meant to be with each other, right? And so because they poured into me, guess what I can do now? I can see the next person and I can say, guess what? I see that you're not in your home, but you're an amazing mom. Like, I can speak those words to them because somebody spoke it to me. So yeah.
That's so powerful. I got chills listening to that because it reminded me
Yeah.
of a moment where my best friend, I had two best friends at the time when I was coming out of an abusive marriage
Yeah.
myself. But I remember they would tell me things. My best friend, she was like, "You're a force to be reckoned with."
Mm.
She was like, "You haven't seen the things that God has planned for you." And in that moment, I'm like, "Girl, please, I'm just trying to
Right.
figure out this moment."
Exactly.
And so I don't know
Exactly.
what you see. And then not only that, I went to church one day and I just remember the lady coming over me and she was like, "You're a prayer warrior." But in that moment, I wasn't praying. I was crying. You know,
Yeah.
I was depressed. I was like, God, how is this even my life? And then I had another friend because I lost myself in that
Yeah.
marriage. But I had another friend, she would give me her clothes. Like, I didn't
Yep.
ask for these things. She would give them to me, and bit by bit that built my confidence.
Yeah.
And see myself. And so community is so important. Having people around you that can see not only who you are today, but they can see into the future. They can prophesy over you. They can speak to
Mhm.
who they know God has created you to be. And so that is so important. And I know
Yeah.
people hear it all the time, like who you're around matters. I
Yeah.
didn't have people around me who was willing to have a pity party with me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't have those type of people around me. I had people around me who was like, you can do this.
Yeah.
Like, you're created for this. God is not surprised by what you're going through in this moment. So
That's
I
good.
can resonate with that.
That's good. And I want to say another thing too, when you talk about being your weakest moment, what did you do? Right? It's community, but also in my mind, which had to be God, it was show up in the places that I think would put me where I needed to be, even if I didn't feel like it. So I literally went to Bible study every single Wednesday. I went to church every single Sunday, not out of legalism, but because I was like, I don't feel it right now, but I'm going to show up in the places right now where I feel like I need to be. And people literally ask me, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm all right. I'm just showing up because I feel like this is where I should be. Like, that was my response for a long time, just showing up where I think I should be. And it helps because all those scriptures in Bible study, all that going to Sunday morning, hearing those sermons, like I was feeding myself, even though I didn't want to be there. Like, even though I was like tired and I was weak, I just showed up where I thought I should be in positive places. And so that really helped me a lot too.
Wow. Show up where you think you should be.
Yeah.
Kind of places. What I'm hearing is move by faith, but also it reminded me
Yeah.
of the Shunammite woman when her son fell sick. And
Mhm.
she was on her way to journey. She was trying to get healing for him. And everybody was like, "Are you okay?" And the only thing that she could say is, "All is well," in that moment. All is well. And it just reminds me of her story, but it's also a story of moving by faith. And as moms, we have to do that, especially as single moms. We have to move by faith. And I think it's so important. That was how I knew hell broke off my life, when I just kept placing myself in church. There were moments where I just didn't know where to go, where to turn. I
Yeah,
was in Bible study. I was at church on Sunday. I'm listening to worship music. I'm fasting. I'm in my bedroom, reading the word. And to some, it's probably like it don't take all of that. But for me in that moment, it did.
yeah,
It
yeah,
did. And so that's tapping into the power of God when you're weak, because it requires our participation.
yeah, absolutely. That's good.
Yeah, for sure. And so we talked about how the power of God showed up for you during that time. Um, when did your breakthrough come? Like, how long did it take? Because you may have a mom that's listening in and she's like, okay, I've taken the steps to get out of this abusive relationship, but now I'm just like, because I know a lot of moms in my single mom community right now who have to find a job. They've never worked before. And mom in my inbox right now, she's like, "Do I need to get a second job? I'm a teacher. What do I do?" And I think she's a mom of 4 or 5 as well. She just got out of a marriage, and she's like, "I don't know if I can do this." So how long did it take for you to get your breakthrough?
Yeah. So I would say my timeline was I was a few months pregnant when I left, and then we lived with that friend for about 7 months.
Hmm.
And then I was able to finally get a job. I believe at that time I just ran into a friend and he was working somewhere and gave me a job in the arts, a job that I'm actually still working at, like contracting out and working with artists. And and then I was able to rent a home, right? And so we stayed in that home. Maybe a couple years, and now I was finally able to buy a home, right? So it's these steps that I took, and I don't know, it's different for everybody, right? But I'm trying to think of the things that happened. Just it was just steps, encountering people. And let me tell you, I feel like I always want to have the answer, and I don't.
Mm.
I do remember I remember being on my knees so much. Like, I just remember so many tears. I remember so much of crying out to God. I remember so much of asking, like, "God, I need you. God, I can't see you." Like, all those tears. Like, that is what I do remember. And I do remember people coming around me. So I know everybody's timeline is going to be different. But what I do know is that the only hope that we have, right, whether you're on someone's floor or not, is in the Lord. And so, and not to over spiritualize things, right, but really every step of the way and watching Him provide for us. I never would have thought that I would have my name on a home. Like, that was not fathomable to me because I never had access to finances like that,
Yeah.
right? I was a stay at home single, or not stay at home mom. And so, homeschool mom. And so it just was steps. It was step by step. And like again, I said I had community around me to kind of to help me out a lot, but I don't know what an actual like just breakthrough moment. I do know I remember the steps. I remember crying and I remember getting up again. And I remember crying and getting up again. And I remember, "Lord, lift the weight, please, just a little bit today," like asking for everything that I need. And so He provided a home, right, that I own. But I always tell people too, God is doing miracles every single day. And so one story that I love to tell is the Snicker bar story. There was one night, like, it's random. I was craving like a Snicker bar, like craving, we have cravings, but this was like really, really bad. And I was like, "Do I get in the car and just get it?" And I was like, "No, I can't justify. It's like 9 o'clock at night, get in the car to go get a Snicker," right? So I go to church the next day, and a lady walks up to me, who I know, and she says, "Hey, Ranika, I just want you to know I have this Snicker bar in my purse because I felt like God told me to give this to you." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I don't tell stories like this. Like, I'm not the person
Yeah.
who tells stories." And God showed up. Like, it blew my mind. And in that moment, it was like God was telling me, yeah, I'm going to provide for you and your kids, but I also want you to know I'm the God that hears the smallest whispers of your hearts. The things that you think are small and don't matter, I see it and I care about you. So he is the God of own the house, and he's the Snicker bar God. He is the God of all things, right? And that's not like to be prosperity gospel, but like he hears us and he knows what our needs are. And so I don't know if there was a breakthrough moment, but I know I've seen him little by little, even to the point where I remember we moved into this house and I was like, man, I wish I had a play set for my kids. We drove in a neighborhood where it's like really wealthy. I was driving through, for some reason, they had a play set sitting out that they were giving out, put into the trash. And I was like, this is in perfect condition. Like, and stuff would happen like that, back to back to back. In my greatest need, I saw God like pour out things that you wouldn't even believe. The small things that you would think are small, you just see God's hand showing up. So, yeah.
I love that. And this is my second time hearing that this week. I'm trying to think.
Really?
Um, yeah, some well-known pastor, he posted on Threads, but he said God is in the small. I feel like
Ooh.
it was Travis Green.
Mm.
He posted that yesterday. He said God is in the small.
Yeah.
We keep looking for all of these big moments.
Yep.
God is in the small, little by little, a little becomes a lot. I
Mhm.
love the Snicker bar story because
Yep.
it just lets us know that even the small things that we feel like don't matter to God, he's like, girl, I heard that too. And
Yeah.
if I can provide this Snicker bar that you didn't even ask anyone for, what else do you think I'm gonna have for you? And like you said, even the play set, things that we think. That's when they say he knows what we need of before we even ask.
Yeah.
Things that we think about. He's in our thoughts. He's
Yeah.
in the desires. He knows our heart's desires. And so that's what I love about God. And in speaking about all of that, what advice would you give to the mom who has lost hope? And I'm already
Mm.
inspired by everything that you just shared. But,
Yeah.
there's some people that just feel like, that's good, that's them, but it'll never happen for me. But also, let me ask you this. Have you ever had a thought that it'll never happen for you?
Oh,
That
absolutely. Absolutely. Hopeless, all the things like, and I mean, I don't know the countless conversations I had with friends during that time of I don't see the light. It's been too long. There's no hope here. Like, this is really hard. It's too much. And I'm telling you, they would confirm, like they would say, yes, you are right. Like, this is hard. This is difficult. You have 5 children. It's just you. Yes, it's hard. Like, not denying that it is hard, right? Being able to tap into those feelings of like, this is hard.
Yeah.
Like, and no one should ever, try to make you think, well, bypass that. Like, we got to feel our feelings. Like, we got to feel what's actually happening. And so, shoot, I lost my train of thought. Bring me back.
No, that's okay. I was just asking, what advice would you give to a mom that
Yes.
has lost her hope?
Yeah. So yes, I know what it's like to not have hope. Um, I know what it's like to just not see the light at all. And so I think one thing I would say, especially like sitting here, sorry, it's gonna make me tear up, is sitting here is like, I don't want to sound cliche, but in due time. Like, if I'm sitting here as a single mom of 5 and I'm talking to you right now, Lakeisha, in due time, like in due time, it is coming. Like, it has to come. Like, it will come. Like, keep going day by day, and ask God to allow you to see the little things, to see the little
Yeah.
miracles that He's doing, just a little bit. And I mean, from looking up into, I've never been a nature person, from looking up into the sky and being like, wow, there's different type of blues. You don't recognize that when you're in abusive relationships. Like, everything is gray. And you come out and you're able to recognize there's different colors, and you see God, and you can hear things that you haven't heard before. But I will say, like, in due time is what I would say. And in the meantime, right? Fill yourself with all the things you will be. So fill yourself with God's word, who tells us to put our hope in Him, who is our hope, right? go to therapy, go to classes, go to I remember I got my domestic violence certification for free, right? I got my mental health coaching certification. Do the things that are going to put you where you want to be so that you can have some hope, right? So I want to I want to make sure I'm not repeating this with my kids. So what can I do? Okay, there's a free class that I see. All right, I'm going to go learn about that. I'm going to learn about how my brain works. Okay, I'm going to learn how to reset my nervous system. Okay, I can teach my kids just how to breathe and recognize different things. So do things, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Do those things that you know will put you where you want to be. You won't see it right now, but in due time, there is a shift that will happen.
And that's so powerful. First of all, we can shout at the end due time. We really can. And it reminds me of weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Mm,
It comes in the morning. Um, that in due time can preach in itself.
yeah,
And also, you talked about, first of all, I had to ask God and I had to pray, and I'm constantly praying and asking Him to change my perspective
yeah,
on
yeah,
how I see things.
yeah,
Help me, in order for me to be a good steward of the things that God is doing, I have to be able to see the little blessings. I
yeah,
have to be able to see those things, the little things, like you said. I'm pretty sure it was the little miracles, it was the little things
yeah,
that
yeah.
keep going. And God was just planting seeds, planting seeds. It says, you know, you will reap if you faint not. If you faint not, you will reap. Your harvest is going to come. Your harvest season, your due season is going to come if you faint not. And so I also love how you said, feel yourself. But
Mm,
I wrote down FILL and
mm,
FEEL.
mm,
Feel yourself.
both,
Feel
both.
yourself. We have to fill up. And I was going to ask you about therapy, but you touched on it.
Yeah,
That's so important as well. You have to feel. And like you said, I love how your friends, they validated your feelings in that moment and they said, this is hard.
yeah,
We're not going to downplay it. It is hard. And
yeah.
then you also touched on when you talked about just going out and learning what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's legacy in itself.
Oh yeah.
That's passing down generational blessings in itself.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
imperative. It's imperative to learn the things that you don't know, right? If all I've known my entire life is abuse, then I need to figure out what is on the other side. I need to figure out, what am I thinking? What are the circumstances that I've been in? What does it look like to have healthy relationships? Like,
My
I
God.
need to know that. And we think like, and for me, I was like, this is so simple. Everybody else knows what a healthy relationship is. I took a class on boundaries. Like, because I needed to learn boundaries. I went to a codependency group. Why? Because I was codependent. Like, and these are free. Like, there are codependency groups in your area. There are just different groups that you can look up to do the things. Like, we have to be real with ourselves. Like, if I've known abuse all my life, then guess what? I need to go find out what it looks like to have a healthy relationship, because you're right, that is legacy. If I've been codependent on my life, okay, let me join this codependency group and figure out what's going on. And so it is imperative for us to learn and have a hunger to learn the things that we do not know about so that we don't repeat them. And I want to be the best version of myself, right? And so many people, they always tell you, you got to take care of you before you take care of those kids. And we always want to do the opposite, take care of them, take care. But if I didn't take care of me, if I didn't understand how my brain is working, then guess what? I'm going to teach them the same thing that I learned. But I took the time to invest in myself. Okay, I got to learn, what does a healthy relationship look like? What do boundaries look like? Okay, how do I assert myself and say, this is what I want? And like, just simple things that I thought was simple. And now I can teach them. If they are arguing with each other, or if one of the siblings cross each other's boundary, okay, so this is what you do. You say, I feel this way, and I would like you to not. Like, I'm able to teach them that. Why? Not because I'm still in an abusive relationship and learning those patterns, because I learned what healthy looks like, so
Yeah.
that now I can pass it down. So yeah, it is imperative that we learn. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And yes, that's legacy. I can resonate with that. I can resonate with both sides. I've been on the victim mentality side as well.
Yeah.
The victim
Yeah.
mentality side is having that closed perspective, that closed mindset. You
Yeah.
don't have an open mindset. You're closed off and you feel like this is the hand that I was dealt. This is my life. You're feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
study feeling sorry for yourself, then you're not going to go out and see what can I do. But
Yeah.
having that open mindset is saying things like, okay, I've struggled in relationships. What is it in me? I
Mhm.
need to be able to identify. Or another one, we don't, many of us don't know how to manage finances. So
Yeah.
how about you go learn financial literacy? You
Yeah.
know, you've been in a home where you've been traumatized. Go learn, like you said, there are free groups on codependency, all of those. There's so many different resources. So stepping outside of a victim mentality and stepping into your power,
Mhm.
God's power, stepping into that, taking authority. I always tell people, go back to Genesis 1 and 26, when God, he gave us the power and authority to go out and do what he did. And so it's stepping into your power. But first, you have to step outside of that victim mentality, and I know that's not easy. It's
Not.
easier saying than doing, but I commend you for taking your power, stepping into your authority, going out and learning what you don't know, putting yourself in rooms that you've never been in, and just being willing and open to change,
Mhm.
because we have to change
Yeah.
things that we can change. So I that's so powerful.
Yeah, and I do love how you focused on the FEEL as well. Because I know I tell my story a lot, and because I'm so excited about it, I noticed I would go from, yeah, I was on someone's floor, and now look at what God has done. And it's like, okay, Ranika, go back to that part when you know what it feels like to be in pain, right? To be hurting, to be on the floor. So I love that you said, feel what you feel. And when we feel those feelings, right, if they come up again, it allows us to remember what God did when we felt that way and where we are. And so how important it is to process that. I don't know why I went back to that, but I just wanted
Oh,
to
that's
stop
good.
there because I don't think sometimes we sit in it, right? And I just want people to know, not only is it okay to sit in it, but please do sit in it. Please
Yeah.
sit in it. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just talking to one of my friends, and she's actually pursuing her therapy license as we speak. And so
Good.
she just talked about sitting in it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
her therapist tells her all the time to sit in it. Sometimes you don't want to sit in it. You want to speed up the process.
Yeah.
And I preached about this last Tuesday. Sometimes we got to ask God to come and sit in it with us. He's
Yeah.
sitting in it with us. We're trying to speed up the process. God, take me out of it. But God, what are you trying to do through me in this moment? If I
Yeah.
skip this process, I'm going to miss out on all the good stuff,
Mhm.
all the good stuff that's taking place. If God skipped you over to that 150K, you would have missed out on all of that research
Yeah.
that you went out and did, all of that inner work that you went and did, all
Yeah.
of that mindset work you went and did. But he's trying to do something in this moment.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. And
Yeah.
it's that process, that pruning,
Yeah.
is so, so, so important.
And I actually believe now that I look back on that is like that darkness is the beginning of the success. So it's
Mm.
like in order to sit there, you're with God and you're seeing what he's doing and he's moving you. And it's just like you've got to know God in those intimate moments, right? And all those things. And so when I'm talking to you, Lakeisha, I don't get to come here on this podcast and say, yes, I'm like really amazing and I did all these things. Like I get to say, yeah, I'm a single mom of 5 because the power of God has done amazing things in my life. And let me tell you what he's like in the dark. He's a father, he's a husband. When you don't have a husband, he's a comforter. Like I get to tell you about who he is because that's eternal, right? And everything I want to do, I'm leaving a legacy. So if I'm talking to you on your podcast, right now, my prayer is, Lord, that I leave eternal deposits here, right? So I get to tell you about the God who's in the dark, and that's the beginning of success. Right now, I'm here, right, talking to you, but it really started in the dark. That I could come and tell you about this God, y'all. Let me tell you what I heard in the dark. I
My
heard he's a
God.
father. I heard he's a husband. I heard he's a comfort. And not only did I hear it, I saw it for myself and I felt it for myself. So I get to come out of the dark and I get to yell it from the rooftops. Y'all, look at what God did for this single mom of five. Let me tell you about him. And he's not a temporary God, he's the God of eternity. So come follow him, know his name, know who he is. And so that's legacy, right? That's the purpose of being here. I get to tell you about this God. And so I don't know where I'm going with that, but in the dark, I do believe like that's see it as the beginning of the success. So not the end. It's not the end. It's the beginning of what's to come. And when you come out, you yell it from the rooftops. And this is what the Lord has done for me. And he's done that for me, which means he can do it for you. We don't tell our testimonies for ourselves and for people to think that we're great. We tell our testimonies so other people can overcome and they can see and cling to the one who is great.
That is so good. So good. So good. Let me tell you about this God that I heard about, not only heard about, but experienced in the
Yeah.
darkness.
Yeah.
In the darkness, there are so many gems in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So many gems in the darkness. I always tell people, don't ever go through anything without picking up something. Like,
Mm.
don't go through the hard things and come out of it with nothing in your hand.
Yeah.
There's so many things. You found out that God was a way maker in that
Yeah.
moment. You found out that he was a healer in that moment. You found out that he was a deliverer in that moment. There were some things that you had to be delivered from. You found out that he was a keeper in that moment. He kept you and your children through some hard times. You found out that he was a friend
Yeah.
that sticks closer than a brother in that moment. You found out who he was in that dark moment. And so there was so much power
Yeah.
that you tapped into. There was so much power. God showed up. He says in his word that in your weaknesses, I am made strong. My
Yeah.
power is perfected in your weaknesses. So it's just so powerful. He's just so good. He's
Yeah.
so good. And how has your children benefited from seeing your life go from that weak moment to where you are now?
Yeah. And that's another one where friends, I would talk to them about my children. I would say, man, now like they're from this broken home. And you know what they would say? They would say, I don't care what the stats say. They are children of God. Like God is covering them and being with them. And I remember my daughter, who's now 14, I forget, I don't know if she was in middle school or elementary school. She said, I told she would carry her Bible to school, and she told me one day, she said, you know what, Mom, if you and Dad didn't get divorced, I don't think that I would like be as close to the Lord as I am, and I would carry my Bible around. And so I think they have definitely learned how to lean on the Lord for themselves, right? I don't want them to, I don't need to go through a divorce to learn that. I wouldn't want that, but in
Yeah.
spite of that, like God has still kept them so that they can see that. And I'm so grateful that there have been times where we have experienced difficulty together and we literally have rejoiced right after that and sang and danced. And so I think for my children, like we read Bible together every night, we pray, we talk about things, we try to do everything from a Christ perspective, right, as much as you can, right? And so I think that um they just know the Lord in a way that they may have not known if we were still together. And I praise the Lord that they know him and they're still young, and I pray they continue to cling to him, right? And they will have their own journey and do have their own journey and their own story of divorced parents, and yet they know the Lord. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. I love that. And that just goes to show you like what the enemy means for our bad. God will turn it around for our good. And
God
he
is covering
causes all
them.
things to work together for the good of those that love him. And so I love that. I'm so excited for your children, for the legacy that you leaving behind. And I know your children are so proud of you. You
Yeah.
know, I'm just excited. And so tell us about, because you're currently a speaker and you're currently a
Yeah.
coach. So I'm pretty sure that you're assisting God with transforming the lives of other people. So for those who are listening in, how could you assist with pouring into some of the moms that may want to work with you in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run groups. I finished a group in the fall, navigating toxic relationships, and I love doing that because it's like that was just women, a group of women coming together, and was able to teach them about the cycles of abuse, the cycles of equality, right? Boundaries, how to reset your nervous system. So if you have a group of people, a group of friends, and you're just curious about it, you're curious about how to help a friend, or it's you, right, who's in that relationship, gather some friends and some people, and I do workshops and I come and I teach. That is my joy. I'm not a licensed therapist, I'm not any of that. I have all the letters behind my name in that perspective, but I get to teach what I know. And I used to be afraid. People would come to me all the time. I used to be afraid to give like the wrong information, and then it's like, oh, I don't have to say that I'm the expert with this and this, but have learned so much. And for me, I went to so many different places trying to find all the information, and like, okay, now I have it and I just want to give it to other people. So that's what I do. Workshops. I also am a keynote speaker. So I go to conferences and churches, and I speak about, mindset shifting, and speak about tech a little bit, and also speak about abuse and how the church can also help in that way, help people and walk alongside of people. So I'm literally speaking and coaching, helping other people, giving resources, because there's so many resources out there for people as well. So yes, and that's all at RanikaSpeaks.com, and I'm Ranika Speaks on all social media. So that's what I do, like, and I love doing it. Like, I have something that I know and I get to share with people, which I'm not only changing like the trajectory of my generations to come, but other people's, because of the information and just sharing. So yeah.
That's so amazing. And I know that you're doing a great work. I know that you are doing a great work. And I pray that they do reach out to you for those,
Yeah,
it's tugging
please.
on your heart. You've done amazing things. You're doing amazing things. You tapped over into the tech world, which is also another amazing thing. So I'm just excited for you. I'm excited for your journey. If you could leave one thing, whatever it is God is placing on your heart, what would you leave with the people that are tuning in?
I would leave that God has not forgotten about you, that you are not left to the side, that He is a God who clearly sees you, even if you don't feel it in this moment. He sees. And I think the theme of what we've been talking about is in due time, and He is still the same God of the Bible, that same God that you see doing miracles and feeding people and healing people. He is that same God. And I hope that you hold on, hang in there, hold on, show up in those places, even when you don't want to, especially when you don't want to. Show up. Make sure you're around community, good people, get into those groups. And in due time, and God is doing a great work in you, and He's going to finish that good work that He is beginning.
I love that. I love that. Amen. I received that for myself as
Hey,
well.
yeah.
And so, again, we want to thank you so much for coming on to the Praying Single
Thank
Mom
you.
podcast. I know that this episode is going to bless so many moms who are listening in already. And so, again,
Can
thank
I
you.
just say thank you for like the platform to be able to do that and to share and to have this, especially for single moms, specifically. So I just want to thank you, Lakeisha, and just like blessings on all that you do, that the Lord would just bless you and your family and your children and your children's children on down the line for what you are doing, giving people a voice and giving people hope. So thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I really, truly, truly appreciate it. And
Yeah.
so we thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of the Praying Single Mom podcast. We will have all of this information listed in the show notes so that you'll be able to find Ranika. And again, thank you guys so much. You guys have an amazing night.
Thank you.